Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, senior editor behind thesteelcurtain.com, and this is the Steelers no game special post game, whatever we're calling this podcast at this point in time. Steelers don't play till Monday Night Football in Week 17, and so the early games are done, which means that everyone else in the AFC North has already completed their game. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how that, the implications for the Steelers with the playoffs and the postseason. Not looking good. I'll give you a little hint there. And also, we'll talk about the upcoming game, and maybe even we'll get into some Antonio Brown craziness, which happened during 1 o'clock games. But joining me is Dave Schofield, editor of BTSC. What's up, Dave?
How's it going, Jeff? I think I sound a little bit better than I did on the preview and everything else.
A little less Barry White, yeah. A little bit more Dave Schofield, a little less Barry White. But yeah, you might be, those that are tuning in live on Facebook or YouTube might be wondering, where's Bryan Anthony Davis? He's having some technical issues. He might be with us. He might not. If not, we'll be okay. We'll handle the job. We can shoulder the load for sure. What do you want to start here, Dave? I mean, let's start with the Steelers playoff odds now, because the Bengals beat the Chiefs, last second field goal, they win. The Rams somehow find a way to come back and beat the Ravens, but that doesn't really help the Steelers too much.
That one didn't matter.
The Raiders beat the Colts, and that was the big win. So, Dave, why don't you lay that out for everyone out there?
Yeah, everyone that was rooting so hard against the Ravens, that game did not matter. That did not matter at all for the Pittsburgh Steelers with the playoffs, because they still play the Ravens. They were going to have a chance to give them another loss anyway. The Steelers were going to need 2 wins. So the Ravens were not any issue. Now, it would have helped the Ravens get in if they could then beat the Steelers the next week. But that, so it did help in that aspect, but it didn't help the Steelers' chances. What the Steelers needed is they either needed the Bengals to lose their last 2 games for them to have a chance at the AFC North. That did not happen. Now, Jeff, I don't think you watched the game. There was some sketchy shenanigans going on in that game.
Which game? I mean, there was about the Kansas City-Cincinnati game.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did not watch a minute of football today, so that's why I'm basically going to be interviewing you.
The drive that the Bengals took the lead, it was on a 3rd down. They got a call of a horse collar tackle out of bounds. It wasn't a horse collar. They just didn't like it because the guy had a hold of the guy and slung him around and slammed him down out of bounds. And it looked bad, but it really wasn't a penalty. Nothing about it was a penalty. They called it a horse collar. It wasn't a horse collar. And it gave the Bengals a first down, which allowed them to go down and get a touchdown. If not, they would have been settling for a field goal to cut it to 1, or they would have had to go for it on 4th down. So that was kind of some shenanigan calls. Then I have no idea, for people that are watching this, I have no idea why the Bengals on 4th and goal at the 1, when they had it 1st and goal at the 1 and didn't score for 3 straight plays, rather than kick the field goal, went for it. They were lucky to get offsetting penalties. It should have just been penalties on the Bengals, but they called offsetting penalties and gave them another shot. And they went for it again. And they called a face mask in the end zone. When you could still see the offensive line was still holding, but they didn't call it that time, and gave them a new set of downs to where they could take a knee, spike the ball, kick a field goal to win the game. Now, it came at a cost, because Joe Burrow was not out there for the last 2 snaps. He hurt his knee on that play where they were going for it on 4th and goal. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But by that, the Cincinnati Bengals are the AFC North champions. They defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns are all out of AFC North contention. The Browns will not get a chance to win their first AFC North crown. So that's one good thing. But honestly, well, let me lay out the scenarios, then we can come back and talk about this game.
That's what I was going to say. What do the Steelers have to do? By
the Raiders beating the Colts, that changed the scenario, because the only way the Steelers could catch the Colts would be they either needed the Raiders to lose one of their last 2, along with a bunch of other teams, or they needed the Colts to lose both of their last 2. Now, the Colts still have a chance to lose both of their last 2, so the Steelers can't be officially eliminated before Monday night. The problem is, what they need now is because the problem is the Raiders and the Chargers play each other the last week of the season. They can't both lose that game. Also, a tie doesn't help because that would have them with the same record as the Steelers, and they both beat the Steelers. So that doesn't help. A tie there would not help at all. So bottom line is what's going on right now. So if you're listening to this later, we don't know what's happening. The Chargers have to lose to the Broncos, and then they have to beat the Raiders next week. That gives an opening for the Steelers to get in. Or the Colts have to lose to the Jags next week, which the Jags gave up 50-some to the Patriots. Lost 50, what was it, 50-10? Was that the final score there? It was something crazy. It was really bad. We'll just say that. It was the final score, yes, was 50-10. So I'm telling you there's a chance, but yeah, the odds of the Steelers making it in, their only chance is to be a wild card team, and it's very slim now, even if they were to win out.
All right, let's welcome Bryan Anthony Davis to the show. Bryan, what's going on?
Hey, the rooting god let me down in a few places today, I will tell you that. But hey, there's still some rooting to do, and I'm not hanging it up yet.
Well, Bryan, go ahead and before we went on the air, before your computer had some technical issues, you said that there was some Harbaugh type stuff going on in the Cincinnati game. I'd like to hear you expand on that.
Dave just basically said it. It was just, it was smart stuff. It won them the game, but I just thought the arrogance of continuing to go for it on the 1-inch line and getting all those breaks and just, we are going to finish this and just not let Kansas City on the field, which, that's smart football.
They played for a penalty. They were playing for a penalty.
Yeah. It just seemed very Harbaugh-esque to me. It seemed very arrogant, and this is going to be very controversial, and I probably should not be saying this whatsoever, but if Joe Burrow's knee is messed up, which I don't think it's messed up that bad.
Hopefully.
But if it's messed up, then that's all on the Bengals for being arrogant. They could have screwed themselves with this, and that is just plain stupidity for the risk that they took in this game, and serves them right if it does. I hope it doesn't, but serves them right.
Okay, so let's bring this full circle here. Go ahead, Dave. What do you want to say?
Just going to say they shouldn't have got away with it. It worked out perfect for them that they kicked a field goal with no time left. But bottom line is there at the end, they were basically, like I said, they were kind of playing for a penalty, but they shouldn't have got away with it the way they did. All of a sudden there's a second penalty thrown on the first attempt that no one ever really saw. They never really showed to make him offsetting. Everyone was just like, oh, and they called him down. He might have actually been in. So they might have had to push them back to 10 yards. And then they would have kicked the field goal then. And then Kansas City would have had another, they would have had 45 seconds or so to try to match the field goal. They went to not let Mahomes touch the ball again. That was their strategy. And honestly, it shouldn't have paid off, but I feel like they were bailed out more by the guys in black and white than they were by their own playing.
Okay. Let's bring this full circle and talk about the Steelers and what this means for Monday night. Now, the Browns could be eliminated before the game.
Yes.
I think if the Chargers win, then they're eliminated. Is that what I saw on
If the
Twitter,
Chargers win, the Browns are eliminated. Yes.
Right. So it's one of those situations where the Browns could have nothing to play for on Monday Night Football.
But it's because the Browns lost to both the Chargers and the Raiders. They lost to both of them, just like the Steelers did. So they couldn't catch them. Yeah. They don't have that half game like the Steelers do.
So knowing what we know now, Bryan, I'll throw it over to you first. What do you think this does to the Monday night game on primetime for the Steelers and Browns? I mean, obviously there's significance there because of Roethlisberger in his final home game, most likely. But Bryan, what do you think this news? It does suck. I mean, let's be honest, it does suck. But at the same time, it is what it is. What do you think, Bryan?
Well, let me give you a Mike Tomlin answer. We're not worried about anybody else. We're not watching the scoreboard. We're worrying about what we do. And so they are not eliminated from the playoffs completely right now at this point. Now, if the Broncos pull off something for this, and help out, that's great. But you're also in a position where you've just got to play your own football. And I don't know if the Steelers are going to be completely eliminated at 8:00 this evening, which means at 8:00 tomorrow evening, when they're taking the field, they may not be eliminated. So I would just go ahead and we can't worry about the fact that the Colts have to play the Jaguars, because we've seen teams like the Texans beat the Chargers last week, and we've seen the Jaguars pull off a crazy victory over the Tennessee Titans, who are now the #1 seed in the AFC, which a lot of people aren't realizing that, because we're just talking about the Kansas City Chiefs losing. But now with that, there's a new #1 in town, and it's Tennessee. So this loss really hurt Kansas City here. But if you're a Steeler fan, you just worry about taking care of your own business tomorrow night and hoping that there's something to play for.
What do you think about that, Dave, in terms of the overall thought process going into this game?
You got to take care of business. I mean, like I said, the Steelers can't officially be eliminated. So, even if your chances are very, very small, you've still got to play like you have a chance. End of story.
Yeah.
Can I address a couple things real quick?
Sure.
That was brought up in the live chat.
Yeah,
One,
sure.
It was brought up. I think it was West that said, because I was watching Red Zone, I didn't see the whole way through, that apparently on that offsetting penalty, it was a pretty bad penalty on Kansas City. The other thing is, someone else brought up that in a 3-way tie, head-to-head does not matter. That is incorrect. If you go to the NFL's official page, if there are 3 or more clubs that are tied, the first tiebreaker is head-to-head, assuming that they all 3 played each other. If they didn't all play each other,
they have to have the like of a penalty.
And if it's the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Chargers, they all 3 played each other. So the first thing they'll do is the Steelers were 0-2, boom, they're out. Then they would look at between the other 2 teams.
So for those that are watching us live, you're rooting hard for Denver, right, Dave?
Yeah. Right now.
That's
pulling for
right
Denver.
now.
That increases the chances.
Increases the chances. So it's 2013. We always talk about 2013, right?
Yeah.
All those things that needed to happen and how crazy that was, and a Ryan Suckup kick away from the Steelers magically finding a way in. I hate the Chiefs for that reason, and Ryan Suckup to this day, but still crazier things have happened. Last year, Dave, what game knocked me out of the survivor pool? The Jaguars beating Indianapolis.
That's true.
Gardner Minshew's only win was against Phillip Rivers and the Colts. So you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So Bryan, what about the rest of the games so far today? Any other takeaways that we should talk about?
The Titans looked very dynamic against the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins were on a huge it wasn't a huge streak, but man, I mean, only lost 1 in their last 1,000,000, and they really made them look sad today. The running game was back. It did not look like the team that the Steelers played just a couple weeks ago. I have to say that the Buffalo game, Buffalo hanging in there with a team like the Atlanta Falcons in the snow at home, and then finding a way to win. I mean, they extended the lead. I guess I don't know whether they beat the spread or not. There was a 14-point lead at once, but there was a point where they were winning. I mean, I think that was a 14.5. So Dave, I'll let you jump in on that.
Well, what was crazy with that, there was I know this is for people whether they like to watch the other games or not. The final score of that one, I'm trying to find it here, ended up being 29-15. It was a 14-point spread. Or 14-point difference. But what was crazy was this. I know Jeff is cracking up over something. Tell us a little bit.
No, I'm laughing at the spread.
I don't know what the spread was. I'm just saying the victory was 14. It was a 14-point margin of victory, and it was close to 14-point spread. I can't remember.
I thought it was 14.5.
What ends up happening is this. If you guys weren't watching, Matt Ryan scrambles on 3rd down and scores a touchdown. A guy hits him as he goes to the end zone. He comes up, spikes the ball, and kind of puts the ball in his face, gets called for the 15-yard taunting penalty. Then they roll after video replay that Ryan was down inside the 1. Then there's the 15-yard penalty. So they have 4th and goal from the 16 because of the taunting penalty on the touchdown, which ends up not being a touchdown. So they were cutting it to 1 score, and then they overturned that and that penalty. So that game shouldn't have been that close.
What was the final score of that game?
The final score was 29-15.
It was a 14.5-point spread
So they
to
covered.
Atlanta. And I'm looking at this is on our tally site.
Okay,
I took
okay.
Atlanta plus 14.5.
I took Atlanta.
I don't know why I like that so much. Let's get this super chat on the screen here. $1.99 from.
And we're back.
And we're back. He said, so you're saying there's a chance. Yes, just like Lloyd Christmas on Dumb and Dumber. Might not be good, but you're saying there's a chance for sure. There was some big spreads this week, Dave. I want to go through some of them. The Chicago Bears ended up winning that game. The Bengals were getting 5.5 and they won outright. The Raiders, what was the final score of that game?
They won by 3.
They won by 3. Didn't matter. They were getting 6.5. New England minus 16.5. I took New England. I was like, Belichick's going to run it up. And he did.
Yeah, I took New England
totally
as well.
ran it up.
Well, no, I mean, they just kept picking off Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
And Tampa Bay barely beats the Jets. The Jets were getting 13.5 at home. Missed that one.
Did you? You didn't see how that finished, did you?
I was figuring we would talk about Antonio Brown at some point.
Yeah.
I didn't see how it finished.
The finish of the game, the Jets were up 4, and they had the ball 4th and 2 at like the 6 or 7 yard line to go in to score, and they went for it to seal the game rather than kick the field goal to go up 7 and just give the ball back to Tampa with a minute left and no timeouts. And Tom Brady hits a long touchdown with like 20 seconds left in the game. And then they went for 2 and ran it in with Le'Veon Bell. So that way a field goal couldn't tie up the game, but just absolutely crazy. They shouldn't have won that game.
So,
they were getting crushed.
Okay, but let's talk about this. We have to, folks.
Yes.
There are people in the live chat that are like, "Oh, we should probably this." We talked about the Steelers, but the Steelers haven't played till tomorrow night. So at this time, like we have to talk about Antonio Brown just went completely off the deep end. You thought that it was bad when he left Pittsburgh in what was it, the third quarter or was it the fourth quarter? Does anyone know?
I think it was
the
third, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was after halftime, but I don't think it was long enough into.
Right.
They're losing.
Yeah, so third quarter, he's frustrated, he's angry, but ever comes off the sideline, throws his helmet, takes his shoulder pads off and his jersey, takes his undershirt off, and then just literally leaves. He leaves. He just leaves. And then after the game,
Bruce Arians, the end zone. He doesn't. He goes out on the field and waves to everybody.
Yeah,
but it wasn't in Tampa. It was in New York.
And Bruce Arians already said in his post game, Antonio Brown is not a buck anymore. So he's literally hasn't been officially released yet, but he's getting cut if he hasn't been already. But I don't even know what to say about this guy. I mean, Brian, what do you add to that? I mean, this guy's off his rocker.
Yeah, you thought that whole thing in Pittsburgh was bad. You thought, don't forget about. Look, he hasn't left anywhere besides Pittsburgh on his own accord, because the Raiders waived him because he was trying to get waived. They got rid of him. He goes to his legal problems and that whole thing got him kicked out of New England. Now he's in Tampa, and this is one of the worst things to do in football is you quit. And the most embarrassing thing, not the fact that he quit, he struggled to get his shoulder pads off. And the throw of his shoulder pads in his jersey was just it was weak. So there's a lot of people saying, hey, there's now the possibility that his career is done. Not so fast. Jerry Jones is a guy that would sell his soul to the devil to bring a guy like this in, possibly, even with the weapons that they have. There's other teams that would too. So it's a shame that this guy might end up with a team in contention again in just another week.
Dave, thoughts on Antonio?
I don't. Who's gonna pick him up on waivers? Because he has to go on waivers because it's after the trade deadline, and anyone picking him up on waivers is crazy. How can you watch that video and think that he's going to help your team? I mean, other than Jerry Jones, because he's an idiot, might do it. But I mean, who is going to do that? I mean, it's especially at this point of the season and it being so fresh. I'm not saying that someone else might say, "Oh, we've had it. We thought about signing him, so we had him go to therapy and everything else, and blah blah blah, and then sign him for next year." But picking him up off waivers, man, that would be a crazy move for anybody.
There's always that wounded guy or girl that thinks, "Oh, I could fix her. I could fix him." And it could benefit you too.
Well,
Apparently the only one that's ever fixed him was Mike Tomlin, because I don't know how they held that together for so long when you find out how bad it was.
So my question is, what quarterback would he rather play for? So he had Ben Roethlisberger, and what most would say in their stint together, in that 4-year span, they were almost unstoppable. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we understand it didn't equate to a Super Bowl, whatever. Not talking about that right now. So then he goes to Derek Carr. Derek Carr doesn't even last a month. He goes to Tom Brady in New England, gets suspended, finds his way back with Brady in Tampa Bay. What quarterback out there wants to deal with this guy? I don't think anyone, especially one's going into the playoffs. Brian, do you have one off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, no. But if you want a ring and you think an extra weapon could come in and help you out, and think that that your locker room is strong enough to deal with this guy, hey, I can tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers would bring him in.
I don't think so. This is a whole different level of crazy now. I mean, AB was already at a huge level of crazy, and he went next level. I mean, I don't know. That's way too much crazy for anyone who's trying to get on if you're somebody limping in to the playoffs and you need a spark, that's still that's a huge gamble. A huge gamble.
Alfred just said Chiefs pick him up soon. Hey, Mahomes could handle him. Andy Reid could handle him. I can see that.
Well, I wonder if the NFL will step in. I wonder if the NFL will step in and suspend him or if I don't know, like the Tampa Bay Bucks have options as well. But
they should suspend him without pay rather than cut him.
Is that feasible? Can you actually do that in the CBA?
Based on what he did, I don't know that I can't say for sure. If it's possible for them to do that, then the conduct detrimental to the team. I mean, walking off, leaving them shorthanded during a game, that's pretty detrimental. So,
apparently Tom Brady did not invite him over to his house enough.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Also, if it gets any worse, guys, with Teddy Bridgewater already out, and apparently Drew Lock has left the game for the Denver Broncos.
Who's the quarterback now?
It started with a C.
Mark Rippon's son.
Is it?
No. Yeah. It's Who is it?
Mark Rippon's son?
I'll find it.
Yeah, I think I've got Rippon's son.
Yeah, that's right. It's B. Rippon. He'd be ripping the football down the field.
He'll be here all week, folks. Oh my gosh.
It's not good.
What about that? What about a lot of people on Twitter have been hitting me up today asking what I think about the Baltimore backup quarterback, Huntley. And they're saying, should the Steelers try to go get him? Now, let me ask you, I didn't watch any of the game today, but I've seen him play. He's a very talented quarterback. Is that the type of quarterback you'd be interested in potentially having in Pittsburgh? Brian, we'll start with you.
Real quick, before we get in that, just wait. In a couple seconds, it's going to pop up where Andrew Wilbar is going to take credit for his entire career, like he does for everybody that the Steelers don't take or six in the 7th round. He's going to go, oh yeah, I knew it. I should be the new GM. And so, no. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's what they're looking for. Actually, I think they're looking for an accomplished veteran. I think Tyler Huntley is a very good option. He fits very well in the Ravens offense, but is he a guy that's going to fit in every offense? So no, I don't know.
Dave, what are your thoughts on Mr. Huntley?
All right. Tyler Huntley, he was drafted where? He was an undrafted free agent, right?
Yeah.
And so that was last year that they had him. So they still have him for another 2 years. I don't see why. I don't see why they'd want to get rid of him, right?
Undrafted free agents are on like a year-to-year basis, aren't they?
Wouldn't he then be a restricted free agent or something like that? You know what? I'm going to have to look this up here.
Yeah, I mean,
here we go.
What? You look it up?
Yeah, I'll look it up. You guys keep talking.
Okay. Trying to see where he went to. He went to Utah.
Yeah, with Utah.
That's news to me. And he was undrafted free agent after the 2020 NFL draft.
Yep.
So not 2021, 2020.
So his current contract runs through this year, but I do, like I say, I think that would make him because I think he'd be a restricted free or exclusive rights free agent first, because he was actually on their practice squad last year. So that kind of changes everything up a little bit. So, but they'd be really dumb if they to let him go.
Well, unrestricted free agent is when you can put they would tender him, wouldn't they?
Oh, you mean exclusive rights free agent? Yeah, which means he would have no say in whether or not he could leave or not. If they say we want you at this really cheap price, that's where he would be. I'm not 100% sure that's where he is. Wes said he looked it up as well. I can't find out for sure that he's exclusive rights, but it makes sense based on his contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because is it restricted free agents when they put a tender on them? A second round tender, third round tender, whatever?
Yes.
So
they wouldn't have to do that till after next year. So
yeah. All right, let's get this up here real quick. This super chat. Kai gives us $4.99. Says greetings from Bloomington, Illinois. Just had my firstborn and excited to swaddle her in a terrible towel to watch Ben's last game. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I've had several people that listen to our podcast say, oh, I'm so excited that you just brought in a new baby, a new Steeler fan. Like, that's great. That's great. I can still remember doing that with our kids and all that. So congratulations, Kai, and thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
So, all right. Anything else to add before we call it a show? We just wanted to hop on here to talk about the Steelers playoff scenarios. In case you're just joining us late, the Steelers still have life. There's still a chance, but it's not looking good. We'll put it that way. But Bryan, anything to add?
Wow. If you're doing a few Hail Marys, throw in a Hail Orange in the next couple minutes and see if the Denver Broncos could, maybe they could channel a win and, loss of one of their all-time great head coaches this weekend, yesterday, where we lost Dan Reeves. So maybe that could rally the troops just like it rallied the Raiders today with John Madden. They had his initials on their jerseys or on their helmets. So, no matter what happens today, just tomorrow is going to be an extra special game for a lot of reasons. It's prime time at home. Steelers, we know that October of 1991, over 30 years now, was the last time that happened, that they lost at home. There's the what is seemingly going to be the very last Ben Roethlisberger coming out of that tunnel at home as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Well, it's definitely going to be in 2021 because they cannot get a home playoff game because of the Cincinnati Bengals winning. So if he does play again after next week, if that happens, it's not going to be at Heinz Field. So, but there's no reason to leave. And it's really funny. The name of this podcast is the Steelers No Game Show. And because it wasn't a post game, and we still have 213, actually above 200 some people watching us live to get Steeler information. Mm-hmm. And we know where they're going. We know they might be home for January after next week, but everybody's still here because they have the passion for that team. Keep that passion tomorrow night. Tomorrow night could still be a playoff game in everybody's mind. So enjoy it, embrace it, sleep well tonight, and get ready to rock Heinz Field tomorrow.
Dave, final thoughts?
Yeah, I will say something is that I think the Cincinnati Bengals, I hate to have to say this, but they deserve to win the AFC North. If you can beat the who are they? Kansas City Chiefs, who are on a 7 or 8 game win streak. Even no matter how it happened, I see it. Not only that, they took out the Steelers twice. They took out the Ravens twice. those are the only other two teams that have ever won the AFC North, and they beat both of them twice this year. So to say that, the Bengals, they shouldn't have. No, the Bengals did what they needed to do, and they deserve it. The Steelers didn't do enough. The Ravens didn't do enough. The Browns didn't do enough. All the Steelers can do now, you hope that Denver can pull off something amazing to increase your chances. You got to pull for Jacksonville next week. But most importantly, you got to win your games. So the least you can do, Steelers, is go out there, win your last two games against your AFC North opponents. Go out there, win them. I know some people would say, oh, well, why bother if you can't make the postseason, get a higher draft pick? You know what? This isn't how this team wants to go down to finish out the 2021 regular season. Go out there, fight. And as I always say, play hard.
Yeah, those are good points as always, especially the last one. You got to play hard. And for me, it's Ben Roethlisberger's. This is it. This isn't just last home game. This is last two games of his career, likely. And yeah, could he play somewhere else? I doubt he will. And so even if the Steelers are eliminated from the playoffs in some way, shape, or form, my gosh, tune in because of that. Because since 2004, the Steelers haven't had to worry about a quarterback in that time period. So make sure you enjoy it. It's definitely not the way it used to look in terms of Ben Roethlisberger, but he's getting up there in age, 39 years old. Like I said, and everyone says Father Time is undefeated. So, and keep in mind, these shows, in case you're new to the platform, whether it's in the podcast or on YouTube, like they're not going away. We're not we're not the platform that in the off season you just don't hear from us. We still do every show one show a day on YouTube and Facebook. We have other shows that run in audio only. So make sure you check us out there, as well as BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, which should be your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And some of us, I'm not sure who, will be back after the game on Monday night to talk about the Steelers and Browns in Week 17. And then we'll start digesting Week 18 as a trip to M&T Bank Stadium finishes out the regular season. So in the meantime, folks, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, and we will see you all next time. Take it easy.